For digital illustration, there are several apps out there you can use, like Autodesk SketchBook. You have Procreate, IB's Paint, Krita, and Clip Studio Paint. Although there are several ones out there, I basically use Autodesk SketchBook and Procreate for digital fashion illustration, and I'm going to be showing you a quick intro to getting started with Autodesk Sketchbook. Autodesk Sketchbook is free to download on both Android tablets and also iPads. You can actually also download it on your phone. It's preferable to use tablets that come with their own stylus pen and also phones, or you can use a really good universal pen. There are some advanced features that you can unlock by paying for a certain fee on Autodesk Sketchbook. Let's get started. When you get into your app, you'll be greeted with this canvas where you can pinch zoom to rotate. Now, before you do anything, click New Sketch. We need our pixel dimensions to be really high so our illustrations can be really sharp, and your resolution should be like 300, and click Create. Now, this is where I have my pencils, erasers. This is my library. I usually work with the inking pen. I use this to outline. Then I use my erasers to erase. Then I use my hard airbrush to, draw skin, paint, and also dresses. Now, you might be wondering why I have this section of brushes here. This is where I place brushes I use frequently. You can also do that by dragging and dropping. Then you can also tap on any brush to check the settings of advanced or basic. You can also tap and delete a brush that maybe you can tap this section and delete a brush that you've duplicated multiple times. Now, the reason I have multiple of these inking pens, they are custom brushes of diamonds, pearls. I'm going to explain how to create custom brushes in another video. Now let's just create something. This section is where you have your layers. Now, to create a new layer is by tapping the plus sign. We need to draw something. This slider here is used to control the size of our brush pen. The one underneath is the opacity, which is used to control the transparency of our brush pens. Now I'm just going to draw a circle. My brush pen is at 100, so it's really thick. Then I'm going to reduce the opacity. Now you can see it's transparent because I reduced the opacity. You can always play around with the opacity or the size of your pen slider by taking it up or down. Now you might be wondering what this section is. Now that's a double puck. It looks like a traffic sign logo. You can tap on your lagoon to get your double puck. Now this double puck, you can move it wherever you want. You can tap on it to get your colors and also your color palette. That's your color wheel above. Now you can also pick any color you want. You can also change how light or dark you want your colors to be by sliding up or down. You can also change now that's the luminance, taking it up or down. Then the saturation, you can either take it left or right. I usually just take it up or down for illustrations. When I'm drawing, I just take it up or down to make it either light or dark. I can also reduce the size of the brush, but I usually just use the sliders to increase or reduce the size of my brush strokes. Now, if I draw something and I said, oh, I want to undo, I can just tap here to undo or redo. And I can also use my erasers to just, erase a section of my illustration as I want. When you tap on a layer, you can see so many settings. You can choose to either, duplicate to have it multiple, and you can also delete a layer. Now, you can also let me delete it again. Let me take the slider down to black. Now, let's say I want to go to my last used brush. I can tap here and you can see it has changed back to eraser. And I can take it down and it goes down back to my brush. Now let's create something. I'm going to use my predictive stroke. You can see my predictive stroke here. This is a predictive stroke. Now, depending on how effective you want it to be, now if you want it to really predict what you want, I usually just work with like 1 or 2. Now let's say I take it down to 5. Let's draw a circle. It's going to make it a very perfect circle. Now let me undo that. Let me just put it around 2. I want to draw a petal because I don't want it to become a circle. I've created a new layer. Now let me just draw a petal like this. You can see everything is enclosed. Now let's say I draw my petal and there is like an opening. I'm going to show you the difference when I use my bucket to paint this. Now you can see there's an opening there on this petal. It's not enclosed. I'm going to use pick a color on my color wheel and also just decide the color I want. Now I'm going to use my bucket. My bucket is used to paint. I'm just dropping in the colors. Now you can see that this leaked out because one certain petal had an opening, as you can see. So I'll just undo that. Then paint again with my bucket tool. So you can see everything is enclosed, so that's why there's no leakage. So I'm just going to duplicate this several times. Then I'm going to go to my transform settings here. I'm just going to pinch my screen and try to, move it around. The upper section is the distort tool. I can use it to distort a certain shape as I want. This tool is just used to distort, and I'm say done. Then let me just, click on this and also transform as I wish. I'm just moving it around and pinching my screen to move it as I wish, and distorting also. You can flip it left or right or horizontal on vertical. Then also clockwise or anti-clockwise. Those are the other settings there, depending on what you want. Then when you're done, just click done. Whenever you're done, you want everything to be together, then you can just merge. Now, let's say I want to, just adjust the colors. I'm just showing you some basic things I use. Then HSL adjustment, I can just drag it down to adjust the colors I want. Then also in the HSL adjustment, you can adjust how intense you want the color to be. That's the saturation, or how light or dark. When you're done, you can always say done. If you want to reset it, you can just reset. If you want to undo, you can always undo. For this, let's say you're drawing to draw, and let's say you duplicated and you're drawing on this layer, you can just decide to lock this layer so that when you're drawing, you don't mistakenly draw on the other underneath layer. It's going to warn you. So you can just say, oh yes, I don't want to draw on this layer. So some people use that so that they don't mistakenly draw on the underneath layer or in a certain layer. So if I want to clear, I can always clear them. If I want to blend, this is just for blending. Maybe you want to see how it looks, if it's glow screen. There's several effects you can use here when you're drawing. So now let me just quickly explain lock transparency. Let's say I'm using a certain color. Now that lock layer is different from lock transparency. Lock transparency is that whenever I'm drawing, I want it to just draw within that shape. You can see it's drawing within the shape. So that's lock transparency. And for instance, let's say, let me turn off the lock transparency. Let's say I want to create, or I imported a pattern or a print, and I want it to just be within this shape. So now let's say I have a print above, like I imported an image. So I can just use my clipping mask. Then it's just going to clip within that shape. So that's what the clipping mask does. I'll tap and say disable clipping mask. You can see when you enable, it clips it and gets the shape of whatever is under. If you want to make a selection, now you can just click here. This is your lasso selection. Then this is your add. Then you can just, go around what you want. You can go to your distort and move it however you want. You also have your magic wand. This just makes a selection of everything. The tolerance is how much selection you want, or if you want an almost exact selection of it, you can just use within like the mid-range. Then once you're done, this is just crop whatever you selected. Once you're done, you can just close. Then I've explained the bucket tool. Now let's say that I want this certain color, or like I'm in red, I want to get this purple back. You can just use your color picker to just pick, then it will give you back your colors. Now let me close this and just create a new layer on top. If I want this to go back to black, I can just slide this down. These rulers, I just use this for, if I'm trying to create exact lines. Then curves, I use this for like necklines and some curved kind of dresses. Then this interesting aspect is the symmetry tool. This, you can use this to create, symmetrical drawings, like that. It has the one symmetry where you can, whatever you're creating on one side is going to appear on the other side. That's the symmetry tool there. So then you have your shape tools. Let me turn off the symmetry tool. So whatever maybe you want to outline something, draw shapes. So just as the name is, this is just your shape tool here. Then now, the predictive stroke I mentioned, the predictive stroke I mentioned, this here, the more you increase it, the more predictive it predicts your stroke. So now this is the steady stroke. So whatever you're drawing, it just tries to steady whatever you're doing. Now if you increase this, it will have more steadiness. So you can see I can't really go around as much. So this is just to go import whatever, you know, image you want. That's just to import images. Then I don't really use this. This is just for, you know, drawing in perspective. Then this is just to, you know, hide whatever you are drawing. So just hides, sorry, not whatever you're drawing. It just hides all your layers and what your toolbars. Your text to, you know, maybe I'm trying to highlight a certain section of a dress. I can just type place. You can always change, you know, the fonts, the color. You know, when you're done, you can say done. You can even distort it if you want it bigger, if you want to distort it. Although if I'm doing that, I really don't distort my drawings, my writings, my text, sorry. Then this is just like a time lapse of your drawing. Now, to save out your designs, maybe you're done illustrating and you just want to save them out, you can always just tap on the main menu here, then say share and export. Then you say share, then you can export as a JPEG because it has a background. Then choose best. Then you can save image. Now, if you want to export without the background, maybe transparent background, then you can now share export as a PNG. So it's going to save without a background. Now, to save this work as a project file, you can just save it as in the gallery, save to gallery. Then you see several of your other project works that you have done. So if I go to gallery, you're going to see some other designs that I might have created. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next video.